This is Wildcat Country.
It's only right. The ball's in his hands. A milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
All the inside scoop on U of A athletics.
It's up for the end zone. Arizona has scored the touchdown. Wildcats win.
Let's go to work, fella.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale, and it's late June, early July. And Shane, the fun never stops with Wildcat Athletics. This week, in the latest saga of who's going to leave Arizona for somewhere else or get fired, in this case, who's going to leave Arizona? Our buddy Jay Johnson bolted for LSU. And there's a lot of layers to this and how it impacts the baseball team going forward. And we're going to talk about this, but there were a lot of Twitter debates about different tentacles of Jay Johnson's departure. Let me start with this, though, Shane. He left for LSU. Is this a bad move for Jay Johnson? And do you disagree with him actually leaving Arizona for LSU?
Oh, heck no. No. And well, first of all, I wonder, Eric, if a program has ever had a football, men's basketball, baseball, and softball coaching change, all of those in one calendar season or one season ever. I don't think that's ever happened before. I haven't gone back to look, but I can't imagine it ever has. But look, no, I never begrudge a guy leaving for better things. And as comparable as the programs are, we talked about it last week between Arizona and LSU with on-field success. LSU is a better gig. It has a little more prestige. I'm sure they offered more money. We do know that it wasn't for lack of trying. Dave Hickey trying to keep it Jay Johnson at Arizona. He put his best foot forward, but Jay wanted to go. I don't have a problem with that. And whether it's as far, loyalty and all that, whether it's a player leaving school early to declare for the draft or a coach leaving for a better gig, it's a business to them. It isn't to us, the fans, but it is to them. So I get that. But the way Jay Johnson left this program behind is, to me, a textbook example of how to do everything the wrong way. And I don't like saying that because we've had him on the show 3 times. He was generous enough to come on before the College World Series when there was chaos. They had to figure out how to get to Omaha. Appreciate that. We'll always appreciate that about Coach Johnson. A few things about what he's done since he left or even before he left. First of all, typically a coach will at least offer a thank you to the program he left behind, either on social media or in his introductory press conference, right? Talk about how much his previous job meant to him and et cetera. It's not necessary, but it seems like just a form of common courtesy, right? It's what coaches do. Jay did none of that. Nothing. You watch his intro press conference, he mentioned Arizona in passing, and that's it. When Tommy Lloyd was introduced at Arizona, he went out of his way to talk about how much Gonzaga meant to him. And I'm sure that was heartfelt on Coach Lloyd's part, but even if it's not, even if Jay didn't feel that, it's just something you do in order to not burn bridges because you never know what the future holds. Now, is that in and of itself a big deal? Not really. We're big boys. Our feelings might be hurt for a little while, but we get over it. But then we learned, originally from a report from Javier Morales, longtime Tucson sports writer, one of the best in the business, that Jay didn't let his whole team know he was leaving. He only told a few guys. And it was up to Dave Hickey to meet with the team because his entire coaching staff bolted too. And by the way, again, we know Dave tried to keep Jay. He really did. It was just too good a gig to pass up, and I totally get that. And we've learned a couple of other things that aren't really intended for public consumption about his departure that do not necessarily reflect well on him. Bottom line, I feel like Eric, he didn't spit on Arizona on his way out. It's that he didn't even bother to spit. It's like it's Arizona's almost like it's an afterthought for him at this point. And some of the way he conducted himself on his way out reportedly is not a good look for him at all.
All right, well, let's start with the LSU leaving for LSU. And I know there were some people on Twitter that were saying, they're comparable as you said, Shane, last week. Oh, they won as many national titles, everything like that. First of all, there's more prestige in the SEC. There's more money. There's bigger fan bases. There's nicer facilities. And there's more exposure. And nobody can blame Jay Johnson for taking more money at a higher profile job. Nobody. Now, you're making a wrong argument, those of you on Twitter or wherever, if you say that Jay Johnson made a bad career move. Now, listen, is he going to be under more scrutiny going to LSU? Yes. But he's willing to sign up for that. He's moved up the ladder. San Diego, Nevada, Arizona, now LSU. There's nothing wrong with, it's a career progression. I mean, this is a place that Jay Johnson is expected to go and win national titles with the talent at LSU. The first thing that stuck out to me was the fact that he interviewed on Zoom before Arizona went to the College World Series. Now, aside from everything else, to be honest, Shane, I had no problem with that. It's an hour interview on Zoom. You know, we've all done it. Everybody listening to this, or I would say 90% of you listening to this, have interviewed for another job while you had one. Right. Yeah. So you can't be upset. And I understand you can say before the College World Series, what was Jay Johnson going to do in that hour that was going to affect that game plan? Arizona was in the game against Vanderbilt, who's probably going to win the national championship tomorrow after we record this. And maybe I'm wrong, but at least they made it to the championship series, albeit controversially. Mm-hmm. Arizona very well could have made it this far had they beaten Vanderbilt, as you said last week, Shane. So I'm not going to blame Jay Johnson for interviewing, but the fact that he didn't thank Arizona, thank Dave Hickey, thank Greg Burke, thank anybody. Yeah. What was that, man?
Yeah, that was bizarre to me, and especially because, look, I know every coach talks up their current school, and there's no place I'd rather be, and the fans here are great, et cetera, et cetera. But Jay Johnson said those things, and you would think, I don't expect him to go to Baton Rouge and just talk up Arizona baseball, right? He's there to do another job. But at the very least, you take 30 seconds to say, look, I'm so grateful for my time at Arizona. I'm thankful for all the memories I made in Tucson and all the great fans there. Thank you for your support. Arizona baseball even put out a real nice graphic on social media thanking Jay Johnson. No like, no retweet, no nothing. Again, not a huge deal. It's not good look, but I'm more concerned about him basically not even giving some of his players the time of day, apparently, on his way out. Even like bringing some of his current players over to LSU, like it sounds like it's going to happen with Jacob Berry, who's already entered the transfer portal, and a bunch of other guys. I know a lot of fans and even some journalists are upset about that. I'm not necessarily upset about that either, because he has the opportunity to do it. I don't necessarily blame him. If the kids want to go follow him, that's fine. Others have announced, or at least seem to announce, that they're going to be staying put. It's an interesting split, with Daniel Susak, who basically said he's coming back, and a bunch of other guys on social media just in the last few hours before we recorded this. Mm-hmm. Tony Bullard, TJ Nichols, Gil Luna, and a few others. So it seems like there's kind of that split there. But again, my big thing is the way he just left and just kind of, just left the place behind without a second thought. Again, I don't think that's a great look for him. I think if he does not do well at LSU, and I still wish him the best, but if he doesn't do well there, he might find difficulty finding another gig, because people remember these things. Coaching it's a carousel. But in every sport, Eric, in college, in football, in basketball, in baseball, you end up seeing a lot of the same faces. And that's one of the reasons why you ought to be, even if you don't feel that way, maybe you ought to say some nice things on the way out. Jay Johnson didn't bother saying anything. So between that and, not telling all his players, oh, by the way, I'm out of here. Not the best week for him, but of course he doesn't care. He's got a better gig now.
Well, right. But this brings up another question. Do you believe that Jay Johnson was unhappy at Arizona based on his reaction on the way out?
You know what, Eric, I don't care. I mean, look, he went to 2 College World Series in essentially 5 years because of the COVID year. Even if he's not happy with Arizona, even if he feels like good riddance to that place, be a gentleman and say something nice about the place you just came from. Especially a school that you just went to a College World Series and you had fans turning out in 100-degree heat to support that team during a pandemic. He said nothing about them on his way out. And that irks me just a little bit.
When we had Jay on, Jay's like, you got to come out to Omaha, and if not, you're going to do it again next year. I mean, 2 weeks ago when we were recording this podcast, if you had told me Jay Johnson was going to leave Arizona, I'd have said you were nuts. Yeah. Based on talking to us, do you feel in a way that he was a snake oil salesman based on how he talked to us and then what he did?
I am not going to go that far, though. I have people I know and respect have used that exact language. I don't know if I would use that. I mean, look, the guy's a good coach, and obviously a lot of players like and respect him.
He's a nice guy.
No, I think so. And a lot of players like and respect him, and I think you're going to see a lot of them follow him to LSU, and that's fine. But again, it just seemed odd. Like his departure was just like that. And he's not the first coach to do that. I mean, remember how Todd Graham left Pitt. It's not unprecedented, but I'm so conflicted, Eric, because I like Jay. We had a great conversation with him, several great conversations with him. I just don't like the way he's done his business in the last week.
All right, but Shane, let me bring this up. Is there a fundamental problem in the athletic department where Kevin Sumlin leaves, Sean Miller leaves, Jay Johnson leaves, albeit the first two under different circumstances, and you haven't heard a peep from any of them? Now, I think Miller put out a statement or something, great.
Miller did put out a statement. Yeah. Sumlin, okay. I don't expect anything from Kevin Sumlin. He was fired and he didn't give a damn about Tucson. That's fine. Sean Miller, very classy statement. And I think he handled it the right way. And I think back as well to, a guy like Mike Stoops, after he was fired, said a lot of great things about Tucson. He came back for charity events here. He took Rich Rodriguez out to lunch when Rich Rod was hired to basically let him know what to expect down in Tucson. That's the way you do it. And maybe Jay Johnson will do the same thing with a new baseball coach. I don't know. But I think we've seen such good examples of how to do things the right way and how to do things the wrong way. I think Tommy Lloyd coming into Arizona did things the right way, leaving Gonzaga. And I think Jay Johnson has, I'm not going to use that phrase that you've used, but I know others who have. And based on what I've read, we haven't heard it straight from Jay. He probably wouldn't come on and talk to us about it anyway. But based on what I've read, what I've heard, if you want to use that term, I'm not going to use it, but feel free.
No, I like the guy, Shane, and I respect that he came on and he listened to our when we were doing the ASU debacle football game. He tuned into that. I mean, listen, this is somebody that was obviously in tune with the with the athletic department. He and Jedd Fisch were working together, as he told us. I think here's what I'm going to believe about this situation, and I could be way off. I think Jay Johnson's just one of those guys that when you're done, and you don't look back. And that's not how I am, and that's not how you are. I mean, I believe in going out places gracefully, regardless of how it is. When I exit somewhere, I don't want it to say negative things and be looked at, worse off because of it. And I don't think Jay cares. And I think that's what this is all about. I don't think it's a hatred of Arizona. I think it's like, hey, I'm on to LSU. I'm not going to look back on the past. And I like the guy. I think he's a good dude. I wish him nothing but success at LSU. Really do. I hope he wins a title at LSU, for leaving Arizona the way he did. And I appreciate what he did at Arizona. At the same time, I lost some respect for him. And that's a bummer because we just had this guy on 2 weeks ago and we were touting him and it was just such a cool thing. And I'm very curious, and I don't think we'll ever find out the story, but the people that we know behind the scenes, I would love to hear off the air and never to report it, what they think as to why Jay reacted this way, whether I'm right or whether he had an issue that we didn't know about in the athletic department. I'm just really curious of the story. Something doesn't strike any of us well. But I also don't think, Shane, it's fair for the fan base to say, screw him, F him. I'm not,
and Eric, that's why I want to be careful because we don't always know the whole story.
Right.
Maybe he didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the whole team. That seems unlikely, but maybe, if we got a side of the story, I'm sure we see things at least a little differently because there's always two sides to everything. But when you hear one thing after another and and again, no one was stopping Jay Johnson from saying one nice thing about Arizona on his way out.
Right.
He chose not to. And maybe you're right that he is the kind of guy who, when he's done, he's done. Larry Smith left Arizona basically under the cover of darkness to go to USC back in 86, 87, whenever it was. So there's something to that. But again, from a PR standpoint, you want to make it known that you're thankful for where you've been, for what you've already accomplished, for the fans that cheered you on, for the student athletes who played for you and committed a large portion of their lives to go play for you. And
right.
you want to let your players know that they matter. And I'm conflicted right now. I still wish Jay the best, but I based on what I've read, what I've seen, I have lost a little respect for him. Now, if he were to come on and explain it at some point, I doubt he ever will. He doesn't have to. Maybe that changes. But from people I know and respect in the know, at U of A or who cover U of A, they basically all said the same thing. And a lot of them have said, look, he's not the guy that you might think he is. And that to me is the most disappointing thing of all.
And that's a bummer. Yeah. When you think you see somebody who this guy was, at least towards us, he was one of the best guests that we had.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great that he was so accommodating with us. Mm-hmm. And to find out that he's not who we thought he was, one way or the other, he's not exactly the guy that we thought he was. And that's a bummer. So the next question is, we had discussed when Jedd Fisch was hired that, Jedd Fisch is a job hopper. And you brought this up, Shane. If Jedd Fisch leaves to go after 3 years to go to another job, is that a bad thing for Arizona's football program? I don't think so. Is it a bad thing for Arizona's baseball program right now? It kind of is. Can you explain at least the differences, how you view it?
Well, I don't think that the baseball program is going to have a really hard time finding another very good coach because they're not in that top tier of baseball programs, but they're in that second tier of they're a good team. They've been to the College World Series 3 times in the last decade. They won a national championship still less than a decade ago. As far as Jedd Fisch, and I was thinking about this earlier today, if Jedd Fisch, say 3 or 4 years into his tenure at Arizona, is winning, they're on the cusp of maybe getting to a New Year's Six game, or at least in the top third of the Pac-12, winning again, basically. If he got an offer for a better job, like a high-profile job, I think most Arizona fans would say, dude, get out the door. Because as disappointing as it is, we're realistic. We know Arizona is not a premier football program. Maybe if he stays around long enough with success, it could be like Lute Olson did with the men's basketball team, or what Adia Barnes might do with the women's basketball team. But that's the nature of this business, is that there are certain programs that are on the high end of the spectrum and some that are in the middle, some are the low. And the football program is in that mid to low range. Right now, they're very low, mid at best. And it's, I guess you could say, like, it's a good problem to have. I don't think the baseball team is going to take very long to reload. It's going to be more difficult than the men's basketball team because they lost a lot of talent, a lot. The entire coaching staff is gone.
Hold on. Well, right. So they lost the entire coaching staff, and the players that are entering the portal, and there's going to be a bunch of them, they have to do this by July 1st. Otherwise, they have to stay at their university. I did see that there's a chance that deadline is going to be extended. So just keep an eye out. Okay. But regardless, there's a chance that some of them come back. They're not all gone officially. Now, Jacob Berry, who was on the podcast as well, now he it seems like would be a natural fit for LSU and Coach Johnson at LSU. Mm-hmm. I hope that Dave Hickey makes a move and hires somebody quickly. The guy that I want is Andrew Checketts from Santa Barbara. I mean, look what they did in the Tucson Regional. They gave Arizona, all they could handle on that Sunday. They took out Oklahoma State for them.
Played him twice.
Twice.
Played him twice.
Right. And so this is a great coach who's got a pitching background. He has a guy, and I don't remember the kid's name, who's going to go in the first round of the MLB draft. That, he got to come to Santa Barbara, and now this guy coached him up, going to go in the first round and potentially make the major leagues as an impact pitcher. I mean, this is a guy you want. Now, would you want to leave Santa Barbara? Who knows? He's in an easy year conference. He's going to be in the tournament just about every year. If he keeps it up, who wouldn't want to live in Santa Barbara? But I think right now what's discouraging to me as well is Nate Yeskie. Was he not considered for the job? I mean, the rumors are out there that I've read that he wasn't considered, and that's why he went to A&M. This seemed like a slam dunk hire for Dave Hickey. Just promote Yeskie, keep the team intact, and, go from there. Am I missing something?
I don't know, because on one hand, you want to hire a guy who's been a head coach, but on the other hand, Caitlin Lowe was never a head coach, and Jedd Fisch was very, very briefly a head coach for 2 games at UCLA. So it's not like Arizona's adverse to that kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe Yeskie wanted to move on. It's hard to say, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a clean slate. It's not going to be a time and load situation where he keeps some of the coaches and then some of the players stick around. I mean, some of the players are going to stick around, but there's still sort of the remnants of the Sean Miller era are still within the Tommy Lloyd program. This is going to be a complete rebuild. You're going to have hopefully some of the same players. And it's interesting, by the way, I was thinking as well, Eric, that for some student athletes, it's more about the coach and the coaching staff. And for others, it's more about the university. Take our guy Stevie Rocker, who committed to Arizona when Kevin Sumlin was coach, and then he stayed committed, I believe, even before Jedd Fisch was announced. He was, he's a
Correct.
dyed-in-the-wool Arizona Wildcat. He wanted to come play here, and there are a few other guys in that boat. So there almost seems to be like a down the line split with this baseball team, and half or maybe more are headed out, and half are about half or so are going to stay put. But either because they love the university or because they realize they might not be able to play somewhere else right away. So there's that element too. But it is interesting how for some it's about, I'm here for the coach, and others I'm here for the school. And I think we've seen that dividing line about, some of these players have come out and said, Arizona Wildcat for life. And others like, I'm following Jay Johnson, or if I can't play for Jay Johnson, I'm going to go somewhere else.
See, that's a bunch of garbage to me. I admire Daniel Susak. If he's listening to the podcast, thank you, Daniel. You're a role model. You're my new favorite player on the team. You came out when the team was under some adversity without a coach, tonight, and you posted, "Hey, I'm staying here." And you are one of the top players on the team. Good for you. Good for you. You are the epitome of a Wildcat. And we're all very proud of you. And the players who retweeted him or followed along, good for you. We're all proud of you and glad you're true Wildcats. And those who aren't, I'm sorry, but if I'm committing somewhere, and especially if I'm a guy that plays, I'm committing to a school. Now, it's one thing if you're a quarterback and you're a pro-style quarterback and they bring in a spread coach. Like Khalil Tate, I wouldn't have blamed him in Mazzoni's offense had he left based on, I guess in hindsight, seeing what happened. But in baseball, it's the same fundamentals here. It's baseball. It's not. This is not football with complex schemes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I just can't. I can't get on board with it.
Yeah, I get it, Eric. But I never begrudge whether it's a coach or a student athlete, someone who just wants to do what's best for his or her career. I understand what you're saying about baseball. I totally am. And there may be some guys who end up coming back. There may be some guys who decide, you know what, this isn't going to work, and I'm going to come back. I'm sure a lot of them want to see who the new head coach is first, and hopefully we'll have an announcement on that by next week's podcast. We'll have to wait and see, but I don't feel like any of the people who were in the transfer portal are traitors or anything to that extent. I don't begrudge them any more than I begrudge Jay Johnson for looking for a better situation, especially when your coach leaves. Go ahead and find something that fits you better. That's fine with me.
Well, one guy who is a Wildcat for life, Shane, and who will never be a traitor to the University of Arizona, John Fina, football legend at Arizona, coming up next here on Wildcat Country. Very excited to bring back on our friend, John Fina, who is a U of A legend, NFL star from back in the day. Buffalo Bills, played in a bunch of Super Bowls with the Bills. Fortunately, came out on the losing end. But hey, guys gave it a fight, and then you had to
start the interview with that, didn't you?
Oh, listen, come on. I have a bunch of Bills fan friends, and they all talk about those teams. It's 20, 30 years later, they still talk about it. All right, John, glad to have you on. Last time when we had you on, Jedd Fisch had just been hired. You didn't know much about what was going on. You had a chance to kind of be around the program for spring ball. What were your thoughts on the Jedd Fisch era thus far?
Well, I have to say, everybody was skeptical, right? He didn't come from a program. He's never really led a program. He had bounced around quite a bit, which, in retrospect, looking back on it, I think that ended up being a good thing for us. Because somebody like that, you go to a new place, you have to show new energy. One of the things that one of my coaches told me before I got to Buffalo was basically, that age-old expression, whistle while you work, right? So be happy where you are, be engaged. And I think a guy like that who has been in a position where everywhere he's been new, and you have to have like this kind of fever pitch, zeal, excitement to you. I think that's really what our program needed. I feel like for a long time now, it's just been kind of dull, boring, or not terribly engaging. You can fabricate excitement and you can make that be catching, right? Have that contagion of excitement. So that's the easy part. But it seemed like, Kevin Sumlin didn't do it. And I think, considering the previous situation with the previous coach, it started kind of good, but it faded quickly. So the indication I get from everybody, from players to the athletic office, all the way down to the coaches, is they're excited about the program. They're happy to be here. And when you whistle while you work, you're more engaged and you're more energetic. And I think those signs to this program are obvious, welcome, and inspiring.
First of all, John, for those who are actually watching the podcast right now, the Sparky logo is peeking out a little bit behind you there. Just so you know, John's daughter goes to ASU, so that's why he's got to have he's trying to cover it up, but it's a little tricky right now.
Well, strategically placed where it's not the most common thing. I could switch it over to my background.
No. Don't worry about it. I just want to let people know, for people who are watching, I just wanted to put that disclaimer up there. It's like, John hasn't gone over to the dark side, but no, we appreciate your time joining us again, John. And I know before we started recording, you talked about you're able to have some conversations with some of the members of the coaching staff. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you? Anything you can share about some of the chats you had with members of Fisch's staff?
Yeah, I mean, from the defensive side of the ball, you can argue position by position where we are, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, where we're missing a guy or two. But I think you've got to take chances when you're in a situation like that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that man for man we're as good or better than any other team defensively in the Pac-12, but you can scheme some excitement. I am an offensive player, but when I look at defenses, I would rather die by the sword rather than die by 1,000 cuts. So I think you're going to see a more aggressive defense, which I think, you got to take chances. If you feel like you're perhaps outgunned or outmanned, you've got to take chances. You got to rely on guys. And, the quarterback still has to make a long throw or an accurate throw. The guy still has to catch it. And you might put a corner on an island that you might be reluctantly doing that, but you're gambling to get to the quarterback, or you're going to, maybe provide more secondary help somewhere else. So I think you'll see the defense be more creative. We might give up some big plays, but damn it, I just don't like sitting back and getting picked apart. So I'm all for that. And, you have to work within your personnel, obviously, when you do things like that. I think Don Brown has got, he's got a great pedigree. He's been at a great program for years. His football knowledge is certainly deeper than mine, especially on that side of the ball. So I'm excited to see some aggressive type defense. Offensively, I talked to Brendan Carroll a little bit, and I think it's pretty fair to say that our run game lacked creativity. That we were not very elaborate, so to speak. So I think you're going to see a little bit more to the run game. We're going to try to game plan a little bit better to expose defenses where they'll give us some room, whether you're looking at zone blocking schemes or angle blocking schemes. And, we've got good speed, I think, at the running back positions. I think the offensive linemen, are doing pretty well. A lot of your success up front is technique coaching, and I think Brendan Carroll brings that kind of commitment to, foot here, hand here. And again, I think that excitement and coaches believing in you and believing in your program does a lot for your potential success.
And you mentioned, guys like Ricky Hunley and Chuck Cecil really well, and now they're part of this coaching staff. After chatting with them during practice and maybe before or after that, however often you guys talk, where do you think they're at as far as this program and the maybe some of the optimism they have about this program going forward under Jedd Fisch, even though it might be kind of a long way back to relevance for Arizona football?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to, for me, I'm a fan, right? I always feel like if I get too close to the program, then I might get frustrated. What I like to see is just a good quality effort, lack of mistakes, and really, general excitement around playing the game and being competitive. Now, everybody should bring to this season, expectations. Mine are realistic, right? I don't think you can turn a program around in this conference overnight. So would I be thrilled with 5 wins? Yeah, I'd be thrilled. I mean, I hope you would be too. If we can get to 6, that makes you bowl eligible. I mean, that would be fantastic. I don't expect more than that. But what I do expect is a disciplined performance, a clean game, and guys that you can see visibly on the field have bought in to the effort. So, if you're a fan out there and you're expecting a 9-win season, you might want to check your football knowledge and maybe look at a little history to see how many programs turn around that quickly.
What did you think of the talent level that you saw during the practices in spring ball? Were you surprised that it was better than expected, or was it about what you expected or worse?
It's really hard to judge the talent level or ability level. These guys practiced against each other in the spring quite a bit. Defenses tend to dominate early in training camps and mostly throughout spring. So I don't put a lot on that. What I'm looking at, kind of, are they absorbing, or are they seeing, the philosophy of the offense? Are they executing the plays with good technique? And I think a lot can be said for that. I mean, people argue that I was, some insanely talented guy, but when you look at where I was as a junior at Arizona, I was undersized, I was weak, but I was disciplined in my technique. In my senior year, I got a little stronger, I got a little heavier, but I relied on my technique. And I think if we can get everybody at their particular position not to abandon their technique when things get bad, and by the way, here's a secret, things always get bad. Doesn't matter how good you are. There's always adversity. And when you abandon your technique, that's when the real problems start coming. So talent-wise, a little hard to assess. Effort, inspiration, it's all there. As long as, these guys don't get dejected, losing a game here and there, or, making a turnover or giving up a big play.
When you were part of a team that kind of transformed, you guys were okay. And then within a year's time, or, after some big games, you guys transformed into a burgeoning powerhouse. And as you said, your NFL stock went way up. You ended up being drafted in the first round by the Bills, and your NFL career took off. What do you think was the key factors in taking that step forward as a team and going from a good team to a great team?
Well, Eric, I'm going to check your historic knowledge just a little bit.
Okay.
So,
all right.
My senior year, we were horrible. And then they were great when I left. So
well, I thought
I set it up for them. I'm going to take credit for setting them up.
So
my senior year, we were 4-7, and the turnaround, the Desert Storm, started picking up the year after I was gone.
I thought your senior year was the Washington game. Was that right? Where you beat them, or was that the year after that?
No. My senior year against Washington, we lost, I think, 164-1.
Okay, so that was the year. I thought you were the senior. All right, so that was my.
And that's okay, but I can speak to that. I think that all programs, most programs, Alabama, Ohio State, and a few others, not quite susceptible to the peaks and valleys that some other programs are. But what you had at Arizona by the time I was leaving is a lot of guys who were not 5-star recruits, but guys who were disciplined and guys who knew how to play a part. And when the coaching staff figured out the puzzle and put it together and put the guys in the right place, they were able to accomplish things that, probably nobody really thought that Arizona football could do. And if you look man to man, if you lined up those rosters, you would say the Wildcats probably shouldn't be better than 500, but they played with excitement. They played within their game plan. And, we tried to do that my senior year a little bit. I think we had a ridiculous rash of injuries. We probably had 15 to 20 guys letter for the first time my senior year. Like, we'd have a guy starting in a linebacker position who I thought that I had never even met before or seen before. So if you can stay healthy, which, as you know, it's a game of attrition, and you can get guys who play within that system, and believe in themselves. And if you feel your coach believes in you, then you're gonna play well. You're gonna have a chance. And I think that most Tucsonans, they just want to see our guys go out and feel and reflect the possibility that they can win a football game.
You know what, John? Sorry to cut you off. I just looking at that 91 schedule that you guys had in your senior year, jaw-dropping. You started out at Ohio State. You played at number 3 Washington. The next in October. The next week at UCLA. You got pounded by both those, and then you had to go to number 2 Miami. I mean, is there a harder road schedule in the history of college football than what you guys faced that year? Holy smokes!
The only thing that made it harder was the injuries, and I think we were still. My first year, Dick Tomey put the wishbone in, which as much as we all love Dick Tomey and what a great coach and a leader of men that he is and was, and will always be in our hearts and minds. I think that was a mistake for our program. I'm sure I'll get hate mail. I'm on Twitter. Go ahead, lash out at me for the helmet, for my opinions. But I think that set the program back offensively a little bit. But, by the time I was leaving, we had broken away from that limited run style offense. And I'm sure if Dick were with us, he would say, well, I put the offense in for the personnel that I had. And you could, I'm sure there's an argument everywhere for that. But as you can see now, every team in the Pac-12 is going to throw the football. And now with these explosive lateral type offenses, you need a really good running back and a solid blocking scheme. And, you should be able to pick up a few yards per carry, minus missed blocks and fumbles and things of that nature.
John, one thing that Jedd Fisch has really gone out of his way to do is embrace alumni, embrace the past, the history of this university. Among other things, he wore a Dick Tomey style jacket in 90-degree weather for the spring game. We were both wondering, Eric and I were in the stands, we were wondering, why is he wearing a jacket? And then he explained afterwards what he was doing. What does that mean to you and the rest of the alumni? Like, what does that do to when he lets you know that he sees you, he recognizes the past, and is that important to maybe even the future success of the program?
Well, it's invaluable. We have not, and I'll put the blame on us players. I mean, we didn't get organized. We didn't have a voice. We just, people, it's like a diaspora, right? People come to Tucson and they don't stay, and has a lot to do with the type of town we are and the opportunities. But a lot of my teammates live in Phoenix, or they go back home to where they're from. We don't have a huge, enormous recruiting base here. We don't have a huge cosmopolitan city. So, we weren't too involved. But I'll tell you this, Jedd Fisch said that he was going to engage the alumni community, and he did. And we've had more outreach and more engagement in, a short, 7 months now than I've experienced in every year since I've been gone.
Wow.
And you know what? I'm not going out there to coach. I'm not a coach. I don't expect, every time I show up to have a t-shirt in my hand or anything of that nature, right? One of the telltale signs is there were close to 200 players that showed up for the alumni weekend. And that's staggering. I mean, that is an incredible amount of people that came from great distance because they just felt like they were being acknowledged. And I think that meant a lot to the players too. They saw us all out there eating with them and telling stories. And, everybody who's in college is cooler than a 52-year-old guy like me, but it's nice to see. It's good to feel. And I think Jedd's doing the right thing. And I say these are the easy things. They're not incredibly easy. I mean, he's got a full slate every day of stuff to do. But he's really embraced not just football, not just the alumni, but every other sport. I mean, you follow him on Twitter.
Right, yes.
And he's a great fan of all the sports. And what a great year to be a Wildcat fan. I mean, between softball, baseball, new basketball coach, golf, right? Tennis did well. I mean, and he's, he acknowledged all of that. And I think that the community enjoyed that too. I follow Arizona golf. I follow Arizona baseball, Arizona softball. I would never have done that before, but I'm following the lead of our leader, and I'm enjoying it. I'm more engaged now with even the other sports. So at least I'm paying attention because that excitement is being passed on to me.
He's been one heck of a unifier for sure. My last question for you, John, and we really appreciate your time once again. I'm going to kind of give you a free shot here, and you can choose to take it or not. You may have heard about some of the allegations against the ASU football program. Any thoughts on that? I'll let you take it whatever direction you want to take it.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I was in I was in an office today in my job, and there was a huge U of A fan, a huge ASU fan, and they were going back and forth, and I was just kind of a spectator enjoying it. And so he lashes out at their football program, and he just pointed back at us and said, "What about your basketball program?" I don't know. I mean, there's so much money in sports, and the cheating is going on here and there. We'll see. I mean, it'll be yet another 5-year investigation that doesn't land anywhere. And I always go back to thinking, and I'll take my shot, but it's not going to be the shot you're going to expect, right? I mean, we spend all this time and attention worried about, did some kid visit somewhere, get a sandwich for somebody, or leave with a ball cap that they shouldn't have? And we let our government have a pass on the crap that they do and the way they line their pockets. And we're worried about the integrity of amateur sports. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah, like the FBI didn't have anything better to do with its time than to investigate Arizona men's basketball.
You remember when they went? They went long and hard on baseball when they were hitting home runs all over. Congressional inquiry, really? I have a good friend, and I'm not in this camp, but my friend says to me, let them use any performance-enhancing drugs that they want. Let's see how fast they can ride a bike, how far they can hit a ball. Who cares, right? I don't know. I'm not going to admonish ASU. I'm sure every program makes mistakes, whether by accident or by design. They got caught. What are the repercussions going to be? I don't know. I just hope that we don't get caught.
And there you have it from John Fina. I got to ask you one more. This is kind of off topic, John, but Shane and I were talking about this earlier in the show.
Hold on, I'm killing myself over here. I just don't know what to say. I mean, I want to beat ASU every year, and if that means they're on probation or they can't even field a team or all their coaches get fired, that's fine with me.
I'm good. I think we're all good with that. I love that. All right. So I got to ask you one last thing. So Jay Johnson left Arizona for LSU, and you're on Twitter. You've seen some of the comments and such. Do you have any thoughts on just everything, how it played out? Do you blame Jay for making the move, or do you have any opinions on how this has all gone?
Yeah, I don't. First of all, I don't blame him for leaving. I mean, he's got a family. He's got designs on the type of life he wants to lead, the quality of life, what have you. And you guys would probably move if your salary were maybe doubled. You might take a different day job. I don't blame anybody for that. The way it happened, frankly, again, I like to be a fan. So if I dig too deep, if I start scratching too far and the blood then I get angry, right? So like when I watch a football game, I try to do other things, clean the kitchen, do some cooking, because if I focus too closely, I start to get a little too wound up. I don't blame him for leaving. And I'm sure when you're in the moment and things are happening like that, he could probably look back today or, look to his wife and say, you know what? I probably could have done that a little bit better. But it's 8:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, whatever it is now. And I look back on my day and think I could have done something better. Right? I could have been a better parent. I could have been a better husband. I could have been a better salesman. We can't navigate it perfectly, and we certainly can't navigate it perfectly for the million people that live in the Tucson metro area. So there's no way to do it right. I don't know how wrong he did it, and frankly, I don't want to know. I just wish our program well. I hope I hope that they recover, and with this transfer portal business, I hope that the guys who are here elect to stay and don't leave, and You just can't see the future. And good for him. He got a great opportunity. I don't know that I would want to live in that weather, but God love him.
Great John Fina, the ultimate Arizona alum. And by the way, John, I'm going to go study my 1991 Arizona football squad. I thought the Washington game happened in 91. I probably need to do more homework this late as we're recording this. But
do the math on our losses to Washington, UCLA, and Arizona State. And I think we were outscored like 164 to like 50, maybe even 40. It was miserable.
But they were quality losses, John. Quality losses.
It was 145 to 28.
You were way off.
Oh!
It was 54-zip, 54-14, and 37-14. So
who did we not score against? Was that
Washington? You said 1,000,000-0. You were right.
And that was the end of the streak too against ASU. That and ASU finally broke through. Yeah. That wasn't a great senior year then, was it?
Yeah.
A dubious honor. Honor.
Yeah. I'm going to study my Arizona football history. John Fina, thank you as always for joining us here in Wildcat Country.
Hey, you guys, it was great, man. We could dive into so many other subjects, but I wish you well, and go Arizona football, and bear down Cats.
Always fun, Shane, to have John Fina join us. He is never one short of giving his opinions, and it's always great to find out what's going on in the world of John Fina.
Hey, Eric, what year is it right now? Is it 2020 or 2021?
I think it's 2021.
I think you're a year off at the moment, dude.
Oh, really? Yeah.
John didn't have to correct. Well, actually, John was very nice about the way he corrected you, but you know.
Yeah, he did, because he also didn't. I said 3 straight games that Arizona played on the road with Washington, UCLA. I was wrong. Played Miami at home, lost 36-9 at home, not on the road. Still, Arizona faced a brutal road schedule that year. But yeah, I need to go back and do my early 90s U of A football
history. You need
to
go back and read my book too, because that was the year at the end the streak ended was 91. ASU cleaned their clock in Tempe that year.
Shane, as you get older, all the years blend together, and you know how that goes. Yeah. All right, so moving on to more subtle topics. So football season is in 2 months. Now it's 2 months from this weekend is when we will have Arizona BYU in Vegas. What is your enthusiasm now as compared to previous years? Let's exclude last year because we didn't know if there was going to be a season with COVID. Are you more excited to watch this Arizona team? Less excited? Where do you stand, as we're, 9 weeks out?
I'm actually excited for a fresh start. Now, I don't think they're going to be great right away, like John Fina talked about. But I put my excitement level to 7 or an 8 because I'd really want to see what this team is about. I think realistically, most fans, including myself, want to see 2 things out of this year's team, Eric. They want this team to be competitive. Even in defeat, they want them to be competitive. And they want to see improvement from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Neither of those happened last year. And again, it was abbreviated season, but even in the small sample size we had, they seemed to get worse each week, from nearly upsetting USC in week 1 to the Territorial Cup massacre at the end of the season. I think most fans would accept a 3-win season, provided that this team puts up a fight, challenges some of the better teams in the conference, and is better by the end of the season, so that there's at least hope that a bowl game is attainable by season 2. Now, at least one patented Wildcat upset wouldn't hurt either. We typically have at least one of those every year. But not all 3-9 or 4-8 seasons are created equal. Show some fight, show some improvement, and I think Arizona fans will be satisfied and excited for the following season, and I will be in that camp as well.
I think where I stand right now is I'm excited to be back in the stadium and to watch Arizona football from Arizona Stadium, because that was sorely missed last year. I mean, I'd done it for, the last 20 years of my life. And so to have missed that was certainly a void. And same with basketball and the other sports, don't get me wrong. I would say, though, for me, it's like a 6, because I get excited for football seasons when, there's a chance at making a bowl game. And when you're like, hey, I know I'm going to see, there's a good chance that I could see something special. And last year wasn't it, because, it was great to have football. It was better than nothing. The year before, I felt that. Even coming off the ASU loss, I felt, hey, Arizona's going to make a bowl game this year, and they started 4-1 and then haven't won a game since. I'm skeptical, and it's weird for me to say that because I'm usually a diehard that really throws logic out the window when it comes to Arizona football. I'm just on guard this year. I'm just excited September 11th to get back into Arizona Stadium, Wildcat San Diego State, and I think that more than BYU is kind of a show me game. Because San Diego State's still one of the top teams in the Mountain West. Will Arizona be competitive? I can't tell you I'm excited for Arizona NAU the week after. Was it NAU or was it Portland State? I can't even remember. It's a Division II team that Arizona should win. San Diego State, that's the game I'm circling on my calendar. I'm just really curious to see which Arizona team's going to show up that week.
Eric, you might just want to keep a schedule in front of you when we do these podcasts.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
But you know what? I will say this, Eric. Embrace the low expectations. I love the low expectations. I love going into a movie.
No.
I love going into a movie that's gotten really crappy reviews because I go in and I'm like, you know what? If it stinks, I'm prepared for it to stink, right? And usually I enjoy those movies a little bit more because I think, oh, that wasn't that bad. I got high expectations. And I think, well, that wasn't as good. So, hey, I'm on board for a 3 or 4 win season. I hope for at least 3, maybe 4 wins. And again, hopefully in the losses, there's at least glimmers of hope that they push a tough team or two to the limit. That's all I want to see this season. I don't expect, like our friend Joe Tafoya said, a 6-win season. I'm glad he does. I get it. But 3 or 4 wins, you challenge some of the tougher teams. You give them a hard time. You kind of set the stage for what this team could become in the Jedd Fisch era. I'm fine with that.
Portland State was on my mind because that's who we were supposed to play last year before COVID canceled it. It was supposed to be Hawaii, and then Portland State were going to be the 2 non-conference home games. All right, and then a road game at Texas Tech. All right, Shane, here is the last question of this week's podcast, and we're going to dive more into this as football season gets closer. Which will be Arizona's first win? Will it be BYU in Vegas? Will it be San Diego State at home? Will it be Northern Arizona at home, or will it be none of the above?
I certainly hope it's at least NAU. I'll go with NAU. I don't think they win either of those first 2 games. I think BYU is going to be a bit of a disaster. I don't know about San Diego State yet. We'll see when we get closer to the season. But if I had to put money on it, and I'm thankful I don't, I would pick them to go 1-2 with a win over NAU. I know that's not a bold prediction by any means, but that seems like the most likely at this point.
Will we have a baseball coach by the next time we do a podcast?
I think at the very least, we will have a finalist. We'll have at least a report that this person is the leading candidate for the job.
Well, thank you, as always, for doing the show and booking John Fina, who's an awesome guest. Thanks, John, for joining us. I hope all of you listening have a great 4th of July and be safe out there. For my co-host, Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. We always have a great time talking to you here on Wildcat Country. And as always, bear down.